We're live. Ding-a-ling-a-ling. Hi, this is Princess Steps, Fall 2022, Week 2. The topic is shoes. John's going to talk, but before that, I have a special announcement for all the leaders. I was just reminded that the bridge into West Salem closes at 8 o'clock tonight. And so check with me after we aren't live anymore, and I'll tell you where we're going to go instead. Okay, so Week 2, welcome to the people that weren't here last week, because I know there's some people that are here this week that weren't here last week. And also, are there any questions before we start? 3, 2, 1. Okay, so just a reminder, next week is heart rate week, okay? And we're going to practice taking our heart rate before we go out, and you're all going to have a heart rate slip. Those of you that are alumni know all about this. For those of you that are not alumni, when you come in next week and you put your star up, there's going to be a little slip of paper up there with your heart rate information. You're going to want to take that slip of paper and have it with you, because it's got your 60 to 80, actually 85% target heart rate zone, 85% being too high. And all that information is going to be explained in the Week 3 update, which you will get via email. And that reminds me, all of you should have received 2 emails, one Monday morning about 7 a.m. with your homework. The other one you should have received sometime Sunday afternoon, and that was the update highlighting the topic of the week. So, that said, if you did not get either of those 2 emails, please let me know, and we will troubleshoot and make sure you get that stuff, okay? And you just have to email me, let me know. You can already see by the starboard that some of the colors are, getting mixed around. That means people switched groups. It's still fine to switch groups. Another question came up, can I still register? Can my friend still get in? Yes, your friend can still register. That's fine. And if there's no other questions, then I'm going to have John come on up. That was a really fast introduction. Okay, everybody, this is John Gallagher. John and Susan. And he's going to talk about a very important topic, shoes. And I may or may not interject as well, because there's a process, and that's how we roll.
She will interrupt. So let's be ready for that. Okay. What I'm holding here is a model of a human foot. It is not a human foot. 2 of these, right? Ambulation, moving forward, left, right, repeat. Whether you're walking, running, at the bottom of your leg, you have one of these, okay? It's got 28 different bones, 33 different joints, over 100 moving parts between ligaments, tendons, muscles, all articulating, moving to get you from here to there, okay? We want to protect these, correct? Keep going, stay moving forward. So there's a lot of things going on in the human foot. That's why we have physical therapists, podiatrists, people that teach us, what to do if things go wrong with the foot. So what we try and do here is sell you shoes so that we don't have issues with the human foot, okay? A lot of injuries, Susan talked about Princess Steps. You will hear that over and over and over and over and over again, and then some more after that. Princess Steps, more than anything else, is going to help you keep things moving correctly. But if there's instability in the foot, okay, some people have really nice high arch, real stiff kind of foot that just moves like this, doesn't do much except move from heel to toe. Maybe 8% of the population is blessed enough with a foot like that, okay? Most people, there's a thing called pronation. So you your heel hits the ground first, and as you're moving forward to your forefoot, there's all kinds of movement back and forth, okay? Even though you're trying to go heel to toe, there's some moving within all these joints. So see how I can move this? Okay, that's what our feet do. That's the best shock absorber ever made, okay? Our feet are actually amazing shock absorbers. Like I said, there's over 100 different moving parts. And you think about it, every step you take walking, it's about, because you're going from one foot to the other, every step you take, it's about 1.5 times to 1 3/4 times your body weight coming down in force when you're walking. When you're running, it's 2.5 to 3.5 times your body weight hitting the ground. Okay? Any guesses on how many times your foot hits the ground in a mile? Yeah, about 1,500 to 2,000 times. Okay? So, if you were to take your hand and just slap it on top of a table 1,500 times, how do you think that would feel? Okay? That's why shoes are so important. Okay? So it's absorbing shock, it's distributing the shock, it's getting that, it's called actually in the shoe biz, attenuation of the shock, okay? So that it's distributed and dispersed through the shoe, through all those joints in the foot, okay? And protection. There's been some ingenious things that have come up in the last 15 to 20 years. Let me just jump back for a second. I sold my first pair of running shoes in the summer of 1984. So it's been a while. Been at this a long time. Did some part-time work in 84, again in 86, 87, 88. 87, 88 worked very much full-time for a store up in Portland that's no longer around anymore, but ran a store pretty much by myself for about a year in the late 80s. Left that, got into teaching, was teaching high school English, coaching track, coaching cross country, but this whole shoe biz kind of thing never left my blood. So in the summer of 1996, Susan, myself, and Bob Ray, who's here part-time now, 3 of us put together Gallagher Fitness Resources. And we opened up in November of 1997, so nearly 25 years ago. Hard to believe we've been doing that. A lot has changed in 25 years. Shoes don't look anything like they did then. 2 primary things that have happened in the shoe biz. Shoes have gotten much, much lighter and much more efficient and more focused on specific people, specific walkers, runners, needs, how to take care of feet, okay? All those things. There's a lot of research that goes into it. There's a lot of different colors, a lot of color research that goes into picking and choosing the right colors. But more importantly, there's a lot of technology. And that technology is constantly evolving, constantly improving. And some ideas come and go. We've seen a lot of them, okay? Got my box of props here. This idea, okay? I will happily admit that Susan, Bob, and I didn't participate in this idea at all, okay? The whole concept was, hey, we have a human foot, let's make it work like a human foot. Except, remember my example of slapping your hand on the table 1,500 times? Okay, there's not a lot of cushion here, okay? It doesn't make your foot stronger by beating it up every single day you go out, okay? But that was the whole theory on these. And they got sued for it. So we'll leave that one down. So from that, 8, 9 years ago, of minimal, now we're to maximal, okay? But something like this from Hoka and others, this kind of maximum cushion, this thing weighs nothing, essentially, okay? 8.8 ounces in this shoe, okay? Back to my box of props here. That looks kind of similar, right? Big old midsole, a lot of cushion underneath it. This is 18.5 ounces. 8.8 ounces, 18.5, 18.8, okay? Say it again. 8.8 ounces, 18.5 ounces, okay?
That's over a pound.
10 ounces.
16 ounces.
16 ounces a pound, but 10 ounces heavier on this one. So I'm going to pass these two around, and I just want people to just kind of hold them up, kind of at the end of your fingers, and you'll feel the significant difference. This was pretty much a cross trainer from the late 80s, early 90s, okay? Some of you may have owned a shoe that looked kind of like this. This is really the remarkable difference of what's taking place right now in shoe biz. I'll throw this one in there too. This is a New Balance. This beast here weighs in at 6 ounces.
Wow.
Okay, super flexible, but also has lots and lots of protection. So I'll move these around. So the way shoes are designed, the way they're put together, changes constantly. New materials, new midsole materials, where it used to all be called rubber, now it's called foam. So because there's also a lot of kind of green mentality that's going into the manufacturing of shoes and the sustainability of shoes. So there's a constant race now to find products that are a little bit greener, don't create as much waste as you're manufacturing them, and they still provide all the cushioning, all the support, everything that we all need, okay? So that, especially the last 5 years, there's been a lot of rapid change. So if you're owning a pair of shoes that are 5 years older or older than that, it's a remarkable difference of what's being sold right now. Years ago, it was, the big New Balance and Adidas and Asics and Brooks, and Nike and Adidas. What did I say? Adidas. Okay, so those were kind of the big shoe companies, right? Ultra. Anybody heard of Ultra? They've been around 11 years now. Hoka, 11 years now, okay? Those two brands have really changed an awful lot of stuff. Ultra has, look at the bottom of that shoe, okay, kind of looks like the bottom of that foot, right? Okay. Concept of let's use the human, or let's create a shoe that's kind of like the human foot, but offers a nice cushioning foam, okay? Ultra also uses a foot-shaped last. So the forefoot's a little bit wider, okay? And the heel's narrow, just like the human foot has a narrow heel, all right? So the idea here is let's make the shoe the shape of the foot, okay? And they also, Ultra, was a weird idea when they started out 11 years ago. Let's make the heel and the forefoot the same level. Where typically for many years, the heel of a running shoe is going to be 8 to 10 to 12 millimeters, which isn't much, but a little bit higher in the back, a little bit lower in the front, so that as you land, the shock is absorbed at the heel, and then you roll forward into the front. Ultra said, no, we're going to make shoes like the human foot, flat. from heel to toe. You know, you don't walk around with high heels. You walk around on heel to toe. This concept works great for some people, not so great for other people. All right. What we've typically found is people who kind of grew up playing soccer or basketball, or were in shoes that were pretty flat to begin with, they take to this concept really fast. People who've been walkers or runners most of their lives, or have been, kind of grew up wearing running shoes or high heels or, chunky heels or things like that, doesn't work so as well for people, okay? Because the heel, not having that heel height, definitely makes a little bit of an effect on the Achilles tendon. Okay, so it takes some adaptation to get used to that. When do you replace shoes? We like to say, look at mileage instead of time, okay? So let's say you're averaging 20 miles a week, okay? 20 miles a week is about 80 miles a month, okay? So in 6 months, you're covering nearly 500 miles if you've been consistent, following your homework, doing everything you're supposed to be doing, okay? A shoe lasts anywhere between 300 and 400, maybe up to 500 miles, okay? So if those are the kind of mileage you're putting in, even if you're only doing 10 miles a week, okay? 10 miles times 52 weeks is 520 miles. Quick math on that one, right? You're gonna go through a pair of shoes a year. Especially these lighter weight foams, that I'm passing around and everybody's looking at. They do compress, they offer an awful lot of great support, but they do compress a little bit faster. And where you may, years ago, have gotten 700 or 800 miles out of a pair of shoes, like that big chunky one that I was passing around, that material was a material called polyurethane, super dense. It would last a long time.
I'm gonna interject here a little bit, because how many people, they get into a good running shoe, and it's one of the most comfortable shoes they've ever had, okay? And how many times you're in a hurry and you gravitate toward your most comfortable shoe to go run errands, to clean the house, to go to the grocery store, etc. Those miles count too. So if you're not reserving your running/walking shoe for your running/walking exercise, you're also using it for other things, going to on a vacation or whatever, those miles also factor in.
Good point. Okay. So, mile, it's kind of like, Bob uses the example all the time of car tires, okay? Things wear out, all right? Just like these do, they compress. Occasionally, though, we have people who's, I'm kind of a cheapskate. I'm going to get everything I can out of the okay? These are from a few years ago. A customer came in with these shoes, and we asked permission if we could keep them so that he wouldn't use them anymore, and that they might show up, in a class or two. That's like, well, so you see there's no heel left on that, okay? Shoe's not doing any of the work here. His whole body was doing all the work, doing all the cushioning, okay? So don't let it get to that point. The other thing, so along those lines, durability, okay? So anything that has been worn into the actual soft, cushy midsole material, you're not going to have any durability left in it, all right? But those new materials that we're talking about, definitely a lot of cush, a lot of bounce back. The idea of going from heel to toe, whether it's in a walking stride or a running stride, you want a little bit of a pop, okay? And a lot of those materials now do create kind of that forefoot pop. Okay, so the materials compress and then release, compress and then release, kind of like mini, little mini springs. Energize, keep you going. That's kind of where a lot of the brands are chasing that concept of not so much, it's let the shoe do a little bit of the work, provide the cushioning, but also provide a little bit of the spring forward into the next step. Anybody play golf or tennis? Okay. How many of you still use an old wood tennis racket? Okay. Or, those big heavy irons and big heavy woods in golf from the 70s, 60s and 70s. All that materials, all those sports have gone through immense evolution, okay? Materials that were never even thought of 25, 30 years ago are now the standard. The same things happen really with running shoes. So, that's why you go to a running shoe store, okay? Susan has done a super great job of training everybody who's ever worked here, okay? In 25 years, we've just hired our 50th employee. And everybody is trained on all these shoes, on how the human foot works, on watching it go back and forth. So everybody knows about the floor here, right? We have two different colors because that's our runway down the center.
Or walkway.
Or walkway, right? So when you come in, we're going to have you stand in your socks and just see what your feet do as you're standing there. All right? If your feet are flat, if your feet are wide, if you have high arches, if you have flat arches, just standing there, how do your feet support your body? Okay? And we can tell an awful lot by just visualizing or just visually seeing how your feet hold your body up. Okay? Then we're going to ask you to walk back and forth on our dark brown runway here. Okay? And as you move forward, a lot of those, like I said, 100 moving parts in a human foot. As you move forward, sometimes there's some side-to-side rolls, and sometimes those arches just collapse in. Okay, so that movement of outside to inside is called pronation. We all have to pronate because we can't walk around on the outside of our feet all the time. We got to get to our big toes and roll off and push off. So the amount of pronation is something that we're all trained on, and we all kind of watch back and forth and see how much side-to-side motion there is. That really determines what kind of shoes up there on that wall are going to be the best shoes for you, okay? And typically, it's not going to be, oh, that's the shoe, no other choice, that's the one for you. No, we're going to give you 2 to 4 choices, but it's all going to be kind of in the same realm, same kind of shoe, different brands, maybe different colors if we have them, okay? And give you a choice. And you go back and forth, walking. If you're going to run in them, you run back and forth, and you try them out, okay? Typically, Susan has the employees do at least 3 times back and forth, so that you're really kind of feeling what that foot does, or what that shoe does under your foot, okay? While all the time we're watching to make sure that there's enough support for you. Then after that process, we figure out, here you choose what the best options are for you. Okay. The best thing too about the brand new shoes is breathability. Okay. I mentioned the human foot has 28 bones, 33 joints, over 100 moving parts. Each human foot also has over 250,000 sweat glands. Okay, that's 250,000, 250,000. That's why your feet are wet when you finish exercising. That's why they smell sometimes, right? So, let's do a little experiment here. Okay. This bottle holds the amount of sweat that 1 foot will create in an hour of exercise. Ready for this? That's 1 foot for about an hour's exercise. That's how much sweat we lose in our bodies, okay? That's why hydration is very important too, because you're pumping that out. So, breathability in the materials of the shoes to get that moisture out and evaporate is also enhanced by really good socks. Okay, everybody notice our sock wall up there, right? The sock. Oh, the sock top. Okay. So, a lot of the materials that we use in the socks are non-cotton, because cotton, that big thing of water over here, you get out of the shower, you grab a big thirsty cotton towel, dry yourself off, go back into the bathroom hour, 2 hours later. Is that towel completely dried? No, it's still soaked up all that water. It has to dry over a long period of time. Okay, socks. And a lot of the brands now have left-right specific socks. So anatomically, it'll fit your foot exactly like it should. Made of all kinds of materials that wick the moisture away. So you want to pull that moisture away from your foot, let it evaporate into the air through your shoes, okay? So socks are really, really important. Susan will have also a very important talk about sports bras. I won't do that, Susan will do that. But same idea of let's wick away the moisture. Let's get everything, we're all gonna sweat. That's part of the process. We want to sweat, but you don't want the sweat hanging out in your foot. Okay, so good socks, good shoes. What else do I have here? Fit. Talk about fit for a second. Typically, if you've not, purchased shoes in a running shoe store and had a shoe fitting, and if you've experienced this by trying to buy shoes online for yourself, your dress shoe's a size 7, so your running shoe must be a size 7, right? Or okay. Athletic shoes are definitely sized a little bit differently. So, a dress shoe, what you wear to work, what you wear in the day-to-day workwear. Typically, it's going to be a 1 size, sometimes size and a half difference. So if you're an 8 in a dress shoe, you're probably going to be coming in at a 9 or 9.5 in a running walking shoe. Okay. Main difference too is you want what we call the rule of thumb. So at the end of the shoe, you want to have about a half a thumb's width space at the end of the foot. Okay. So so your foot is not jammed up right to the end of the shoe. It's right. We can definitely get a thumb width in between your longest toe, which for a lot of people is their second toe, not their first toe. Okay. Between that longest toe and the end of the shoe. Reason we want to have that space, 2 different reasons. One, back to those 100 moving parts of a human foot. You want those parts to work. Because like I said, the human foot is the best shock absorber ever created. So you want those muscles and tendons and ligaments to do their job inside the foot, or inside the shoe. Also, as you exercise over the course of time, after about 90 minutes 2 hours, 3 hours. For anybody who's thinking half marathon, marathon kind of distance, our feet swell, okay? If you're an early morning runner, your feet are pretty much the size that they are when you wake up. But if you run towards the end of the day like now, your feet actually have started to flatten out a little bit. Those ligaments have loosened up a little bit over the course of the day. So your foot's actually functionally a little bit longer and a little bit broader at the end of the day. So having that space at the end of the foot or end of the shoe is really important. Okay. Last thing about fit, podiatrists, we work with a lot of podiatrists in town who send patients here all the time, and every one of them agrees that over the course of life, our feet don't get longer, but all those ligaments relax, okay? And pretty much over the course, every 10 to 15 years or so, accept it, you're gonna go up half size, okay? It doesn't mean that you know, by the time you're 90, you're gonna be a size 15. But things do relax and spread out a bit. So when I was in high school, size 10, 10 and a half, perfect. Now I'm 11 and a half, moving towards 12, okay? Just because things start relaxing and spreading out a little bit. You know, the length of my bones and my feet are all the same. It's just the ligaments have allowed them to relax. Questions?
Awesome job. You did great.
You didn't interrupt.
Well, just one other thing. Sometimes people do ask, how do you wash them? It's recommended by all the vendors, don't put them in the washing machine. If you absolutely must wash them, take the sock liner out and do it the old-fashioned way with your hands, and use mild detergent if you have to use soap. Mild detergent would be like dish soap, nothing else. Dish soap, and then rinse all that water off, or the soap out, and just shake the water, and you can put in maybe some crumpled up newspapers or an old towel in there to soak up the initial moisture, and then let them air dry. Okay? Now, that said, you can put them in the washing machine. That just means they're going to fall apart sooner. You come back here and you get another pair of shoes sooner. Okay, that works for us. The other thing I just want to add, that you noticed that shoe that was extremely worn out. Obviously, that customer could wear those shoes worn out, okay? But that said, that increases the chance of injury. So if you have any tendency one way or the other, you're just going to have more of that tendency. So it's going to increase the chance of injury that much more. So why not eliminate a worn out shoe as a possible cause of a silly injury? Eliminate it. And princess steps, yes, princess steps, we can work on that. But if you say, well, is it the shoes or not? Well, if you have good shoes, then you can't say it's the shoes. Okay, so, and also just a reminder for those of you that don't remember, you do get 10% as a perk, as a benefit of being in the clinic. You get 10% off on the shoes here and the bras and everything else except Garmin and nutrition products. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Bye, everybody. See you next week. Remember, practice taking your heart rate for next week.